There's a quiet truth every grounded man discovers sooner or later. Respect is not something you ask for. It's not something you earn through charm, gifts, or effort. It's not hidden in compliments or in the promises you make late at night. No, real respect lives in the way you carry yourself, especially when no one's watching. It's in the boundaries you set when it's uncomfortable, in the moments you say no, calmly, without flinching, in the quiet strength that follows you into every room, whether you're speaking or not. A woman doesn't respect words. She respects presence. She respects clarity. She respects the man who knows where he stands and refuses to be moved. You see, most men don't lose a woman because they stopped loving her. They lose her when they stop respecting themselves. It doesn't happen in one dramatic moment. It happens slowly, one quiet compromise at a time. One moment of silence when a line should have been drawn. One little "it's okay" when it clearly wasn't. And over time, the man who once inspired her begins to dissolve, not because he changed, but because he allowed too much to change him. But that can end here. Today is not about trying harder to be liked. It's about becoming a man whose standards speak louder than his voice. A man who protects his peace like it's sacred. A man who doesn't demand respect, but embodies it. This is the way of the Stoic. Not the loudest in the room, not the one chasing approval, but the one who moves with intention, lives with discipline, and holds the kind of boundaries that magnetize respect without ever asking for it. In this video, I'm going to share with you 7 powerful boundaries that don't push women away. They draw in the right ones. These are not rules to manipulate, but principles to protect the man you were always meant to be. Because if you want her to respect you, if you want the world to take your presence seriously, you must first draw the line within. And once that line is clear, everything changes, not because they suddenly see your worth, but because you finally stopped hiding it. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Guard your peace like a kingdom. There comes a moment in your life when you realize your peace is not optional. It is not a luxury. It is not something you stumble into on a good day. It's something you build, and more importantly, it's something you defend. Because without peace, everything else, your clarity, your strength, your presence, begins to crack. You feel it, don't you? That quiet exhaustion when you give your energy to conversations that go nowhere. That weight on your chest when you're constantly explaining yourself to people who never wanted to understand you. That noise inside your head after a long day of pretending, pleasing, reacting. And yet, you keep going. You keep allowing the chaos in, hoping maybe this time it won't cost you as much. But it always does. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." And he was right. But what he didn't say, what you've had to learn the hard way, is that this retreat must be guarded like a fortress. Because the world doesn't knock, it barges in. It comes dressed as urgent demands, petty conflicts, emotional games, and silent expectations. And if you leave the door open, your soul becomes a hallway. So ask yourself, who has access to you right now? Whose energy are you carrying in your body like a weight you never agreed to lift? Whose approval are you still chasing, even though it's been costing you your sleep? Who gets to enter the most sacred part of your life, your mind, without earning the right? Because here's the truth, not everyone deserves to reach you. Not every argument deserves your response. Not every invitation deserves your presence. Not every silence deserves to be filled. There's power in restraint. Power in choosing stillness when the world tries to pull you into noise. Power in saying no, not from a place of anger, but from a place of reverence for your own peace. Peace isn't weakness. Peace is pressure mastered. It's what remains when you've stopped running toward people, trying to prove you're enough. You stop performing, you stop reacting, you stop participating in chaos just to feel less alone. And something shifts. You begin to enjoy your own company. You rise early not for status, but for stillness. You train your body, not for vanity, but because discipline silences the noise in your head. You clean your space because clutter is a conversation your mind never stops having with itself. You sit in silence without needing to explain your mood, without needing to defend your boundaries. Because a man who is truly at peace knows that the right people never ask him to become someone else to be loved. And yes, she feels it too. A woman knows when your energy is scattered. She senses it in the way you hesitate to say no. She hears it in the way you over-explain your feelings. She feels it when you answer texts that drain you just to avoid disappointing someone. But she also senses the opposite. She feels it when you're grounded. When your stillness carries more weight than most people's words. When you respond with presence instead of panic. When you are emotionally unavailable, not out of bitterness, but out of deliberate design. Because you have something rare, a center. And when you have that, when your peace becomes non-negotiable, people begin to treat you differently. The wrong ones retreat, the right ones draw closer, not because you begged for respect, but because you became the man who commands it in silence. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to be seen in every room. You only need to be solid where it matters most, within. So if you're tired of the noise, of the games, of the constant emotional bleeding, don't try to fix the outside first. Begin by protecting your soul like it's the last place you can breathe, because in many ways it is. And when you guard your peace like a kingdom, you become the king who no longer needs to rule with fear, because his presence speaks louder than his crown. Chapter 2. Never reward disrespect. There's a moment every man faces. It's not loud. It doesn't come with flashing lights or raised voices. It's quiet, subtle, almost forgettable. A small comment, a dismissive glance, a joke with just a little too much edge, and in that moment you make a decision to speak or to shrink. What you do next doesn't just define the relationship. It defines you. You don't lose respect in a single blow. You lose it drip by drip, every time you tolerate what once made your blood burn. And the world learns how to treat you, not from what you say, but from what you silently accept. Seneca once said, "A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." And yet, how often have you suffered in silence, hoping it would go away? How many times have you laughed off the jab, shrugged off the cold shoulder, stayed quiet just to keep the peace? But here's the truth. There is no peace where there is no respect. Disrespect doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It slips in as sarcasm, as subtle eye rolls, as delayed responses that cut deeper than words ever could. And if you let it pass once, it learns it has permission, not because you're weak, but because you've mistaken tolerance for patience and silence for strength. But silence, when it comes from fear, not principle, is surrender. When you excuse disrespect, you're not just losing her admiration, you're losing your edge. And without your edge, you begin to disappear. You become agreeable, predictable, easier to manipulate. Not because she's cruel, but because you no longer feel untouchable. You teach her, and everyone else, where your limits are by the way you respond to those invisible cuts. If she mocks your dream and you brush it off, if she rolls her eyes at your standards and you retreat, if she tests your silence and you flinch, you're not showing strength. You're showing that your values are negotiable. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. You can extend that. If it is not respectful, do not tolerate it. This doesn't mean being aggressive. It means being clear. It means saying calmly and without apology, "Don't speak to me like that," once. With clarity, with presence, and if it happens again, you don't argue. You don't beg, you leave, not out of pride, but out of principle. Because every time you excuse disrespect, you're teaching others that you'll trade your dignity for comfort. But the moment you draw that line, not with noise, but with presence, everything changes. The ones who matter adjust, the ones who don't disappear, and both outcomes serve you. There's a story of an old samurai. A young man insulted him in front of others, hoping to provoke a fight. The samurai stayed calm, didn't flinch, didn't respond. When asked why, he said, "If someone offers you a gift and you don't accept it, to whom does the gift belong? It's the same with disrespect. Not every insult is worth your energy, but none of them should be rewarded with access. You don't need to yell. You don't need to prove anything. You only need to protect your line, because when you lose your boundary, you lose the woman, and more dangerously, you lose yourself. The man who is willing to walk away from disrespect, the man who values his peace more than approval, the man who answers mockery with presence and distance, that man doesn't need to ask for respect. He becomes it. So from this day forward, no more shrinking. No more justifying. No more negotiating your worth for love or comfort or temporary connection. You don't need to be feared. You only need to be felt. Felt as someone who stands for something. Felt as someone who draws a line, not to punish, but to protect what's sacred inside. And the woman who sees that, who respects that, she stays, not because you held her tighter, but because you finally stopped letting go of yourself. Chapter 3. Keep mystery alive. Don't overshare. There is a part of you that should never be fully visible, not because you're hiding, but because some things lose their power when constantly exposed. In a world that tells you to open up and be vulnerable, it's easy to believe that sharing everything will earn you love, connection, and trust. But if you look closely, you'll see the opposite often happens. The more you reveal too soon, the more the mystery fades. And without mystery, respect begins to unravel. Women don't fall in love with open books. They fall for novels they can't stop reading, stories that unfold slowly, thoughtfully, with depth and rhythm. When you pour out your soul too early, every fear, every wound, every anxiety, you stop being a presence. You become a project, and no woman dreams of fixing the man she longs to lean on. Seneca wrote, "It is a great thing to know the season for speech and the season for silence. Wisdom isn't in how much you say, it's in knowing when to speak and when to hold your truth in stillness." You might think, but I'm being honest. I'm showing who I really am. Isn't that a good thing? Yes, honesty matters. But timing and framing matter just as much. When you unload too soon, it doesn't come across as strength. It comes across as need. And need is never attractive. The Stoic man understands this. Your story is not a confession booth. It's a fortress. And only those who prove they can walk with care should be invited in. Think of the sun. It doesn't rise all at once. It begins with a hint of light, then a glow on the horizon, and finally, a slow emergence that transforms everything in its paths. Your presence should be the same. Let her feel your depth without drowning her in it. Let her earn access to your inner world, not as a test, but as a natural rhythm of respect. Because the moment you hand over every detail of your life, every fear, every wound, every soft spot, you give away the one thing that keeps admiration alive. Tension, not the kind of tension that causes fear or anxiety, but the kind that keeps her curious, keeps her drawn in, keeps her wondering what's behind the stillness in your eyes. Epictetus taught, We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Use that as your compass. Let your presence do the speaking. Let your actions reveal your values. Let your discipline become the language she learns to respect. When you share, do it intentionally, not impulsively. Speak from stillness, not from a need to be held. Reveal your story not to be saved, but to be known slowly. There's strength in emotional self-control, not emotional suppression. You can feel deeply, you should. But you don't need to place those emotions on her doorstep every time the wind shifts. That's your responsibility, your work, your weight. The man who quietly carries his storms becomes unforgettable because he doesn't bleed on others. He doesn't chase validation through overexposure. He holds himself like someone who understands what is sacred should never be handed out casually. So take a moment. Ask yourself, do you speak to be heard or do you speak to connect? Do you reveal to impress or to invite trust? Because the more you try to prove your openness, the more it starts to feel like desperation. And nothing ruins attraction faster than the sense that you need to be understood to feel whole. Instead, become whole first and let her discover pieces of you. Not because you spilled, but because your stillness made her want to look deeper. That's how respect grows, not in volume, but in restraint. The Stoic man isn't closed, he's measured. He shares, yes, but only enough to invite wonder. He speaks, yes, but only when the words are rooted in strength. And he opens up, not to be rescued, but to remind the world that his story is a privilege, not a performance. So protect your mystery. It's not distance, it's discipline, and it's the very thing that makes your presence unforgettable. Chapter 4. Stay calm when tested. There will be moments in your life, quiet, unexpected moments, when everything inside you wants to react. She raises her voice. She withdraws her warmth. She tests your tone, your patience, your edge, not because she wants to hurt you, but because on some level, she wants to feel what kind of man you really are when pressure arrives. And in that moment, you'll feel it. That old impulse to defend, to explain, to raise your voice, chase after her, or demand to be seen. But that's not strength, that's reaction. And every time you react, you give away your center. You hand her the remote control to your emotions, and she doesn't feel safer. She feels alone at the wheel. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." You have to remember this, especially when you're being tested, because life will test you, women will test you, not to destroy you, but to locate your depth. She's not always asking for answers. She's looking for your ground. She wants to know, when the winds rise, do you stand still or do you blow away with them? This is where your Stoic practice becomes real. You don't master yourself in silence. You master yourself in discomfort. When your pride is provoked, when your ego is tugged, when someone pulls away and everything in you wants to chase. That's where discipline is born. A man who cannot hold his center when tested has not yet found his foundation. But you're capable of more. You're not here to be a leaf in the storm. You're here to be the ground beneath it. It starts with awareness. Watch yourself. Watch how quickly your body tenses when you're disrespected. How fast your words rush out when you're misunderstood. How hard your heart beats when she gives you silence instead of softness. And then, choose stillness. Not passive stillness, not avoidance, but powerful, conscious calm. Because there's a difference between reacting and responding. Reaction is impulsive. Response is chosen. And that pause, the space between stimulus and action, that's where your power lives. Marcus Aurelius knew this well. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That quote isn't just a nice reminder. It's a call to emotional sovereignty. It means you stop letting the mood of the moment decide the course of your life. You stop letting someone's storm knock you off balance. You stop being movable, because once she sees she can move you with a glance, a tone, a withdrawal, something shifts in her. She may still care, but the respect begins to fade. She no longer sees you as the mountain. You become another man caught in emotional weather, and no woman wants to build her home on a fault line. So when you're tested, stay still. Let her silence echo. Let her mood swing without chasing. Let the misunderstanding sit without scrambling to fix it. Not because you don't care, but because you care without collapsing. You show her and yourself that your emotions are not a puppet show. They're grounded, measured, quietly controlled. Think of the ocean. It moves, yes, but its depth is unmoved by the surface winds. That's you. The stoic man, you feel everything, but you respond only to what's worthy. So let your calm become your gravity. Let your presence speak louder than your explanations. Let your stillness answer her chaos. Because the man who stays calm when tested, he doesn't just keep her attention, he earns her respect. And more than that, he earns his own. And that is the kind of man no storm can touch. Chapter 5. Say no without explaining. There is a quiet power in the word no, not screamed, not defended, not followed by a list of reasons, just no, clear, direct, without apology. Most men struggle with this. Not because they don't want to say no, but because they feel the need to explain it, to soften the blow, to make the other person feel better for crossing a line they never should have approached. But the moment you justify your boundary, you turn it into a negotiation. And a boundary that can be negotiated is not a boundary, it's a preference. And preferences are easy to ignore. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Now apply that to your time. Your energy, your presence. If something is not aligned with your peace or your principles, do not say yes. Not because you owe an explanation, but because you owe yourself protection. Every time you say yes to what drains you, you abandon what builds you. Think about that. Think about the moments you said yes out of guilt, out of fear, out of wanting to seem easygoing or agreeable, only to feel heavy afterward, resentful. Frustrated, not with them, but with yourself for not speaking the truth you knew in your body. That feeling, that tension. That's the cost of explaining away your own instincts. You don't need to justify peace. You don't need to explain why you won't go to the party, answer the call, take the meeting, engage in the drama. You don't need to write long messages, soften your tone, or perform emotional CPR for someone who's already stepping over your line. You simply say, "No, I won't be attending." "No, I'm not available." "No, this doesn't feel right to me." And then, silence. Let the discomfort settle. Let them feel what they need to feel, because it's not your job to manage everyone else's reaction to your boundaries. Seneca said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom starts with self-mastery. And self-mastery begins when you stop outsourcing your decisions to other people's feelings. Because here's the truth. The more you explain your no, the less they hear the boundary, and the more they hear a chance to convince you otherwise. But when you hold your line without commentary, something shifts. People respect it, even if they don't like it, because deep down we all admire those who live with internal clarity. And yes, she notices too. A woman feels when your no is shaky, when it's layered with guilt, when you're hoping she won't be upset. And over time, she begins to test the firmness of your lines. Not because she's manipulative, but because she needs to know. Can I trust this man to stand in his truth when it's inconvenient? Because a man who cannot say no without explaining it will eventually say yes to things that destroy him. So let me ask you, what have you been saying yes to out of fear? Where in your life have you traded peace for approval? What part of you still believes that being liked is more important than being true? That belief, it's a trap, and it's keeping you from the life, the love, and the presence you were born to embody. When you say no clearly and without explanation, you stop asking for permission to exist. You stop needing validation. You stop living someone else's version of your life. You begin to live with integrity, not the kind you post about, but the kind you carry. Quietly, like armor under your clothes, like fire beneath still water. So start small, one clean no, no guilt. No reason, no defense, just a line. And behind that line, a man finally standing where he belongs. Chapter 6, walk away when alignment fades. There's a moment, quiet, heavy, when something inside you knows it's time to go. Not because you're angry. Not because you want revenge, but because something deeper, something sacred within you no longer fits. And if you're honest with yourself, you felt it before. In a relationship where affection stayed but alignment left. In a job that paid well but drained your spirit. In a friendship that lingered out of habit, not truth. Most men stay. They stay because leaving feels like failure, because the unknown feels colder than the comfort of slow erosion. They tell themselves it's not that bad. They lower their standards quietly until one day they don't recognize who they've become. But you're not here to shrink. You're here to stand in truth, even when it hurts, even when it means walking away from something you once loved. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." That includes walking away from people and places that no longer reflect your path. Yes, it will confuse them. Yes, they may call you heartless. But you are not living for applause. You're living for alignment, because alignment is everything. When your outer world no longer reflects your inner truth, you feel it. Your body tightens. Your energy dips. Your peace disappears slowly, one compromise at a time. And if you ignore it long enough, that voice within you, the one trying to protect your soul, starts to go quiet. Not because it's wrong, but because it knows you've stopped listening. That's not strength, that's slow spiritual death. Stoicism teaches responsibility, not attachment. You are responsible for how you live, for what you accept, for who you give your time, your body, your energy, your soul. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." And freedom sometimes means walking away from everything you once begged to keep. This isn't abandonment. This is sacred clarity, because when the relationship demands you betray your values just to keep the peace, it's not love. When your work drains your soul but fills your bank account, it's not success. When your circle no longer reflects your discipline, your vision, your depth, it's not community, it's a cage, and your soul was not born to live in a cage. Walking away is not weakness. It's proof that you honor yourself enough to stop shrinking for spaces that won't grow with you. It's easy to stay and perform. It's hard to leave quietly, with dignity, but that's what Stoic strength looks like. You say, "This no longer aligns with who I'm becoming," and you step out. Not with drama, not with bitterness, but with conviction. Because when you walk away with peace, you don't lose, you make room. Room for right people. Room for clear purpose. Room for inner stillness. And the woman who sees this, the one who watches you walk away rather than betray your soul, she respects you more than any words could ever earn. She knows you didn't leave because you lacked care. You left because you cared deeply about your truth. And the man who lives in alignment is not afraid of solitude. Because solitude with peace is better than company in chaos. So if you've been hesitating, if you've been staying in something that no longer serves your path, hear this now. You don't have to wait until it breaks. You don't need a dramatic reason. You only need a quiet moment of clarity, a whispered truth. This is no longer me. And then you rise, you turn the page, and you walk away, not because you're giving up, but because you're finally choosing yourself. That choice, that sacred decision, is how you become the man your future needs. Chapter 7. Make your energy expensive. Not everything deserves your attention. Not everyone deserves access to your presence, and the sooner you realize that, the more powerful you become, because your energy, your time, your presence, your attention is currency. And like all forms of currency, the more freely you give it, the less it's valued. Most men give too much, too soon. They offer their time without discernment. They give their focus to conversations that go nowhere. They stretch themselves thin, trying to be available to everyone, hoping it will make them feel wanted. But here's the truth you've probably felt in your bones. Availability doesn't breed admiration. It breeds expectation. The more you offer yourself without filter, the more others assume they're entitled to you, to your time, to your patience, to your presence, and that slowly erodes your power, not in one loud moment, but in 1,000 tiny leaks. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do. Only what you do. That's not apathy, that's sovereignty. It's the wisdom of a man who knows where his energy belongs. And more importantly, where it doesn't. You have to treat your energy like sacred ground. Not everyone gets to walk there. Not every situation deserves your reaction. Not every request deserves your yes. And especially in your relationships, this matters deeply. A woman senses your energy before you speak. She feels whether you're grounded or scattered. She knows when you're centering yourself or chasing her with invisible desperation. When you respond too quickly to every message, when you rearrange your schedule to please, when you overextend just to seem agreeable, it doesn't inspire her. It exhausts her. Because no woman wants a man who has no boundary between himself and the world. She wants to feel your structure. She wants to sense that while you care deeply, your energy is not up for auction. It's earned, not demanded. And that doesn't come from playing games. It comes from building a life that's so aligned, so full of meaning, that you don't have time for what isn't. Seneca said, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. The process is mutual. Now ask yourself, who are you giving your energy to? Do they reflect your values? Do they elevate your standard? Or are they just loud distractions in a life you're trying to make quiet again? Because when your energy becomes expensive, everything shifts. The wrong people fall away. The right ones lean in, not because you chased them, but because your gravity changed. You stop needing to be everywhere. You stop responding to chaos. You stop explaining your boundaries. You speak less, but when you do, people listen. You move slower, but with precision. You become the kind of man who walks into a room and shifts the atmosphere, not with volume, but with presence. And that presence is rare. Because in a world full of men trying to be seen, the man who guards his energy becomes unforgettable. So how do you begin? You get clear about what drains you. And you stop negotiating with it. You say no without guilt. You distance yourself from noise, not to be rude, but to protect your focus. You build a schedule that honors your growth, your goals, your stillness. And you give your time to those who've earned your trust, not just your attention. Because when you make your energy expensive, you're not being cold. You're being intentional. You're showing the world that the man you're becoming is not for sale, that your peace isn't free, and that your life is not a public space. It's a sacred temple. Let the world adjust to that. Let the noise grow distant. Let the right people rise to meet you in that silence. That is how respect is built, not by being everywhere, but by knowing exactly where you belong. Conclusion. Become the man. Respect cannot ignore. Respect isn't something you chase. It's not something you beg for. It's not earned through loud speeches or perfect behavior. It's built in silence. In how you carry yourself, in the standards you refuse to lower, in the calm, unshakable presence you bring into every room you walk into. When you guard your peace, say no without guilt. Walk away from what no longer aligns. Hold your mystery and control your emotional responses. You become rare. And in a world full of men who bend, break, and beg, the man who stands becomes unforgettable. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to prove your worth. You simply have to live in a way that makes your boundaries speak for you. Let others wonder why you're so still. Let them question why you don't react. Let them feel the weight of your silence. Because the men who change their world are not the loudest. They are the most centered. They are the ones who protect their soul before they protect their ego. If any part of this message stirred something in you, hold on to it. Don't let it fade with the scroll of the next video. Take it into your day, into your relationships, into your choices, into the man you are becoming. And if you're ready to draw your lines, not out of anger, but out of respect for your own spirit, drop a comment below. I choose presence over performance. I choose boundaries over approval. And if you know another man who needs to remember who he is, share this with him. Because one centered man creates ripple effects in a chaotic world. Thank you for walking this path, for choosing depth over noise, for choosing to live by principle, not pressure. This is the Stoic philosophy. And this is your return to power.